Last week, New Zealand entered quarantine lockdown after the outbreak of COVID-19, aka the coronavirus. As you can see, I'm wearing my My Chemical Romance t-shirt, because I was meant to see My Chemical Romance return to the stage in Western Springs, Auckland last week. Unfortunately, that was postponed due to the coronavirus. I should be wearing my new Foley t-shirt that I ordered in celebration of their new EP release, but it is yet to arrive because of the coronavirus. I would have liked to have had at least one physical new release album to show off this month, but the only one we ordered this month is yet to arrive as well. And you guessed it, because of the coronavirus. New Zealand has a hard time getting albums on release day most of the time, but this has just really put life on hold for a lot of people, and the one thing that's getting a lot of us through it is music. So let's talk about some of the best music released this month. Greetings ladies, gentlemen and non-binaries, and welcome to the March album haul. And as you can see, I checked the mail this morning and my Foley shirt has arrived. And it is just the coolest shirt. Just wanting to add some positivity into the start of the video. Now, I like to structure these videos in a certain pattern where I start with the new release albums and then proceed to talk about other albums I picked up and then ones that my partner Tamsin picked up, as well as things we're looking forward to, and then wrap things up with music that I enjoyed this month. But given that things are a bit different in the world this month, it's going to be a lot shorter and there'll probably be more of an emphasis on the music of the month rather than the actual albums. Case in point, the only new release CD we were actually going to get this month was actually Tamsin's, not mine. So rather than opening with that, I'll open with one of mine that doesn't have a physical release, and that is Foley. Foley are a musical duo from New Zealand, and they've just released their debut EP, On My Conscience. Since Open Side and No More, Foley have taken their spot as my #1 favourite New Zealand band. Now, the two groups share a connection because it was thanks to Open Side that I discovered Foley. They were an opening act for the No Going Back tour back in 2018, and of the 3 opening acts, they were the one that really stood out to me, and I've remembered ever since. Now, way back then, they only had Talk About It and Settle as their 2 songs, and they've gone on to release so many more, like Can't Help the Way, Polar, Homesick. They've just consistently put out great tunes, and I'm just constantly loving everything that they release. I'm so stoked that they finally have their EP released. When they first announced their EP, I was curious to see what tracks they would actually put on it. Now, there's 5 songs in total on this EP. 3 of them were released previously, and there's 2 new ones. First up is Midnight, one of their new songs, and I loved it first time I heard it. It's just another great Foley track. Second up is Can't Help the Way, which is one of their older ones, which is just a really good choice because that one is so funky. I love hearing that one at work. Right in the middle of the EP, song number 3 is Misbehaving, which is a new sort of rebellious take, and I enjoyed that one too. Number 4 is Cola, which overtook Talk About It as like their #1 single, I guess. Like, it's done really well. First time I heard it, I believe it was their 4th song they released. I didn't know what to think about it. I thought, okay, I don't know how I feel about this music, this vibe they had going on to it, like some of the sounds they had in it, but I just kept listening to it and it just kept getting infectious and stuck in my head, and it's so good. And I didn't actually realize it became their #1 hit until recently, basically until the EP came out. So I'm incredibly stupid. My partner pointed out that the Foley logo is styled after the Coca-Cola logo. I didn't even realize that. I don't drink fizzy drinks. I'm really stupid. So yeah, if you haven't heard of Foley before, Cola's definitely the song I'd recommend checking out first. And finally, they wrap up the EP with Homesick, which I believe was their 5th or 6th song they released, and it's a really quiet sort of jam, but it's not boring. Like, it's got a cool bass line to it, and obviously the vocals are on point. Ash and Gabe have done a phenomenal job with this EP, and I'm so happy for them. Maybe if there's a CD one day, limited release, I'll definitely be getting it. But as is, this is an awesome debut of my favourite New Zealand band. I seriously recommend giving it a shot. I've only been able to see them live that one time, but I've seen plenty of Snapchats and Instagram live streams and all sorts, so I'm really looking forward to the opportunity of being able to see them again. Ash and Gabe are a phenomenal duo, and I love their touring drummer. I don't know what their name is, and they're not in any of their music videos as far as I could tell, but they are so good. They always look like they're having so much fun every time they perform. And that does it for my new releases. Now, for the one CD we were supposed to get that Tamsin pre-ordered, The Weeknd's new album, After Hours. As you can see, we've got After Hours and then another funky deluxe edition. Now, Tamsin pre-ordered the standard edition from JB Hi-Fi well in advance of its release date, but of course, because of the COVID-19 situation, they're not even getting the stock into the country yet, so it doesn't give me much hope for the April albums, but we'll see. This one is one even I was looking forward to. Now, stop me if you've heard this one before on an album haul video, but I wouldn't consider myself a huge Weeknd fan. I'm familiar with his work, but Tamsin's more the die-hard Weeknd fan. I've listened to Kiss Land 3 or 4 times over the last few years, and it's never really stuck with me. Beauty Behind the Madness is where I jumped on board with a lot of people, you know, Can't Feel My Face, and the hits, right? The ones that everybody knows. But Starboy is the album that really pulled me in, but I still couldn't really commit because there's 50% like radio hits. They're so funky, they're so fresh, awesome music, awesome vibes, and then you get the other 50% of the album, which is like, oh yeah, this is like the dirty lyrics, the questionable themes, and things my parents would not approve. That sounds so dumb. Anyway, The Weeknd creates such unique and cool sounding music, and he's got an amazing voice. My Dear Melancholy, I think it was called, was the EP that I released a couple of years ago. That was quite slow. It was kind of a melodic, but still had that funky beat to it that Starboy did in a lot of the songs. I'm realizing more and more I don't know how to describe music. But coming up to the release of the new albums, as you may have seen in my January and February album haul videos, Blinding Lights came out, and it's one of the fastest, frenetic, fantastic Weeknd songs. It'd be perfect for a rock band. It's got this awesome synth vibe to it, and I'm digging it. Heartless comes out, chuck a radio edit out in there, and it's perfect. It's amazing. And aside from that, we had one other track that he performed live in, I don't know, it was one of the numerous American late night talk show host shows. It was this cool melodic piano tune that even if it was stripped down for the live performance, I still knew was going to be really good on the actual album. Then the short film came out, and then the After Hours track came out. Everyone's saying it's got this Kiss Land and Trilogy vibe, but I don't know, wasn't getting that. Of course, we were waiting for the CD to arrive in the mail, but it never did, so Tamsin listened to it on YouTube or Spotify or something, and she said, yeah, that was surprisingly slow. Blinding Lights and Heartless are the only two upbeat songs on the album. Now, I won't sugarcoat it, that was disappointing for me to hear, because some of his best songs to me are his upbeat ones, but I get it, people love Trilogy, people love Kiss Land, and I'm sure people love this one too. So then we listened to it together, and yeah, it didn't grab me straight away, and I listened to it a second time by myself and just stopped halfway through. And it's no fault to the album, it's just possibly wasn't in the mood for it, but we both discussed it. I asked her opinion before she headed out for the day. Yeah, we both agreed that it's probably a really good album, you just gotta be in the mood for it, not what you're expecting when these two upbeat, awesome tracks are the only ones released prior to the album, and then the album comes out and they're two of the only upbeat songs on there. I know there's at least two more that there's a little more oomph to them, but really, those two tracks are the two upbeat ones. I'm just going to come right out and say it. It didn't grab me straight away. I'm sure we'll get into it eventually, but it's going to take a couple of listens, just like MGMT's Little Dark Age and Vampire Weekend's Father of the Bride. Hopefully the CD will arrive in time for the April album haul, but with the way things are going at the moment, it's probably not going to happen. I hope we can figure out how to get a hold of the deluxe edition, because apparently there's a deluxe version and then a version that has like the little EP to it, whether those are actual physical releases or just streaming ones. I know Tamsin likes a couple of the featured artists on that one, mainly Lil Uzi Vert. Speaking of Lil Uzi Vert, he finally released Eternal Take. I'm by no means a Lil Uzi Vert fan myself. I'm more familiar with The Weeknd than I am of his. I do like, obviously, The Way Life Goes and EXO Tour Life, but primarily that is Tamsin's department, and I know all about Eternal Take. Anyone who's even heard of Lil Uzi Vert knows about Eternal Take, how he was set to release it, then he deleted it, and so much has been going on in that man's life, and I'm so glad he finally released it. Now, according to his website, there is a CD available, but we can't figure out how to get a hold of it. Now, obviously, you know, coronavirus, this whole situation's happening, so no one's getting any records anytime soon, but I'm hoping in the future we can get a hold of that, because Tamsin has his only other album that's actually released on a physical CD, and she listens to it all the time. This one, completely out of my knowledge, but from what I've seen online and for how many times Tamsin has listened to it, like at least once a day since it's come out, I think it's safe to say that Eternal Take is just amazing. I've listened to a few tracks off it, and the fact that there's a follow-up to EXO Tour Life, that is so cool. Now I'm guessing he got a huge rush of endorphins from releasing Eternal Take and seeing the internet go crazy for it, but he just kept releasing more and more music until eventually he had a deluxe version, which he released as Lil Uzi vs. the World Part 2. I think it's safe to say if you're a fan of that artist, you'll have plenty of new music to enjoy. Now for the albums I actually did manage to get on CD this month. If you watched my February album haul, I mentioned that there were 3 albums that I ordered through Groovy Records that I was going to pick up while I was in Auckland to see My Chemical Romance. Then My Chemical Romance was postponed, so I just had them shipped to me, thankfully, before the country went into lockdown. So I have 3 CDs today. First one should seem familiar to you if you saw last month's album haul. It's Dirty Work Deluxe Edition by All Time Low. I do already have this one. It was one of the 3 All Time Low albums I got last month. But if you saw that video, you would know that that one was in quite a state, so I figured I would order this one. And this one's cool because despite them both being deluxe edition, this one does actually have a 16th bonus track, Time Bomb acoustic version, so an extra song, can't complain. This is by no means my favourite album of them. I'm still obsessed with Don't Panic, it's longer now, I can't stop listening to it, please help. But it is nice to actually have a version that isn't smashed to pieces. Next up is The Search by NF. I was fortunate enough to go see NF live as part of his The Search tour at the start of February before, you know, The whole world went mad. I love this album. I was hoping that they would sell it there, which is the reason I didn't get this for Christmas, but they didn't sell CDs as part of the merch. So I ordered this one, and now I have it. I have the 4 NF albums, and that is cool. I've listened to it a couple of times on actual CD, because obviously I listened to it heaps before the concert, and not really much else I can say. It's a really good album. I recommend giving it a go if you're a fan of NF. Oh, if you're a fan of NF, of course you've seen it. What am I talking about? Pop that there, and finally, the pièce de résistance, the magnum opus, Cool Like You, Deluxe Edition by Blossoms. Blossoms are such a good, underrated band. Although I can't really say underrated anymore, because as I said, I think in January, or was it February, whenever it was, they released their 3rd album, and for some reason, it's become quite popular over in the UK, despite not being very good. Sorry, I just need to come out and be honest, because when I don't, I tend to ramble for like 4 minutes about, oh yeah, a little bit of this, when in actuality, I've listened to it so many times, and I just can't get into the 3rd album. It sounds nothing like their first 2, but I'm not here to talk about the 3rd album. Cool Like You is so good. It's got this awesome synth vibe, pop rock. It's brilliant. There's a reason why I never returned your calls. Cool Like You, I can't stand it. And How Long Will This Last? The 4 of the best Blossom songs. I'd put this one above the first album just because the first album, you got the expanded version that has like 22 tracks on it, and it's hard to listen to a song in an album that has, 22 tracks on it. At least when you're not in the mood for it. Sometimes you need a Green Day album that's 24 minutes long. Now, there were 2 different deluxe editions you could get. It was a DVD CD combo or a 2 CD combo. I went for the 2 CD one because this is one I've actually wanted to get the acoustic version of. I don't think I've ever loved an acoustic album as much as I do this one here. They've got the entire first CD and then the entire album just in acoustic, and it's really good. I would actually recommend the acoustic version of this album as much as the proper version of this album. They are both phenomenal, and I love listening to them both. They're similar, but there's just something about it. Again, I don't know how to talk about music except for saying that I love this so much. It is so good, and I'm so glad I have it. We've listened to it several times already. Blossoms, their first 2 albums, they're just one of those ones you can just put on, you can dance to, you can sing along to, you can just have a good time. There's a reason why I never returned your call. I wish I could forget it all. My mother said she enjoyed seeing me sing in my last video, so there you go, Mum, that one's for you. Well, there go my plans of making a shorter video out the window. Anyway, now for the part of the video where I talk about the new music I've been enjoying this month. Not only because of the coronavirus, but there has been just this influx of new music, both intentional releases and artists thinking, hey, if we're going to be stuck at home for weeks on end, let's do some music, let's do some streams. And I have to give massive props and shout outs to all these fantastic artists, both in New Zealand, Australia, America, UK, I've been seeing that are all doing streams from at home on their comfy couches, and just, it's so good. I've seen so many streams like Foley, Navy, Passenger, Dan from Bastille. There's just been so many of them, and it sounds cheesy, but it does help get through the days, like, these are difficult times we're living in, and music is just, it's universal. Like, everyone can enjoy music. I'm rambling again, so I'm just gonna give a quick rapid fire summary of all this new fantastic music that's been released this month, and go. Let's kick things off with what I like to refer to as the Quarantine Countdown, where I list off a bunch of artists and bands who released music while in self-isolation. So to kick things off, we've got Bon Jovi, who did a cool thing with social media and released Do What You Can, where he got people to send in submissions for different choruses and verses. He also re-released Unbroken, featuring the Invictus Games Choir, which is a cool organisation. It's just a shame it couldn't have been for a better song. Billy Joe Armstrong, the lead singer of Green Day, released a cover of I Think We're Alone Now, and honestly, that has got to be one of the greatest things to have come out of this whole pandemic. He also released You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory, a cover that came out this morning, and I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but I'm assuming it's pretty good because he managed to do both of these in his room, like in his own in-house studio, and apparently he's going to be releasing a cover every Monday until this whole thing is gone, so that's got to be incredible if he can pull that one off. And finally, we've got Marcus Mumford, who released You'll Never Walk Alone, another cover he did solo, and it's the weakest of the bunch, probably just because it's so stripped down and basic, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. We also have a studio-made, professionally released song with Major Lazer featuring Marcus Mumford, Lay Your Head on Me. I don't really have anything positive to say about this one. It's not a particularly good pairing in my opinion. So moving on to Luke Thompson, From Shanghai to Wherever I Will Go. A nice, quiet, just nice melodic jam. I know I've said that word a lot during this video, but it's just a nice calm song
you know, I really enjoy this artist. He's a very unknown one. I saw him opening for Passenger. Speaking of Passenger, he released The Way That I Love You, which is a beautiful song. It has a very sad story behind it, but it doesn't change the fact that the song is really good, on par for Passenger, and it makes me really look forward to his album, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the studio version of Sandstorm. Hayley Williams is back at again with a remix of Simmer, but more importantly, Roses, Lotus, Violet, Iris, her new track, which is the teaser for Petals for Armor Part 2, another EP before the full release, and I actually genuinely like this song. A couple of people were saying really dumb things in the comments, but it doesn't matter. I actually genuinely like this more than anything off the previous one, so that's very cool. Also, another one from the ladies, Ava Max released Kings and Queens. Now, I quite enjoy Ava Max's music. I love, obviously, Sweet But Psycho, So Am I, Torn, Freaking Me Out, those sort of ones. Although a couple of her recent releases haven't been as good in my opinion, like On Somebody, My Way, and Salt. Salt's not bad. I quite like that one, and Not Your Barbie Girl, that's very interesting. But this one here is a return to form. I really like it. It has an infectious chorus, and honestly, I'm really excited to see what this new project she's announcing is, because so far we don't actually have any albums or EPs by this artist, so I'm looking forward to seeing what it is and what tracks make it on there. Saving the best to last, we've got All Time Low, who dropped 3 new tracks, which is quite interesting. Getaway Green, I've seen a lot of fans enjoying that, and it's the 3rd track released off their upcoming album, and honestly, it's better than anything they've released so far. To me, it seems more of like a B-side off one of their early albums, like Nothing Personal. We've also got Melancholy Kaleidoscope, which is my favourite of all of them so far. I love that one. It's got a great beat, great guitars, great drums, great everything. And then finally, a couple of days ago, we've got Trouble Is. Not as catchy as Melancholy Kaleidoscope, but still a fantastic track, and I cannot wait for the new album. But good old Harmonix, they're back at again with their ways, where they tease you with new music release, in this case All Time Low, but then they've gone and put some kind of disaster on Rock Band. I was so disappointed. The only All Time Low song we have on Rock Band is Weightless, and this is the next track he put. Whatever. Needless to say, either of these 3 tracks would have been better suited in my opinion. And finally, the best of the best, The Killers are back. They released Caution, the first single off their upcoming album that they announced ages ago, Imploding the Mirage. Now this track, oh my gosh, I enjoyed it first time I heard it. It's very different to anything off Wonderful Wonderful, but not to say that Wonderful Wonderful is not great. I love that album. I got it signed by Brandon Flowers himself, but this song, the more I listen to it, the more I love it. When I first heard it, I didn't like the solo at the end. Then the more I listened to it, the more I realized this is one of the coolest guitar solos I've heard on like just a random song. And it turns out that the guitarist isn't Dave from the band. It is the guitarist of Fleetwood Mac, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I found that one quite interesting, but I can't stop singing this. The only negative I have is a personal nitpick where he keeps saying, I'm throwing caution, and of course the saying goes, throwing caution to the wind. So I keep waiting for him to say to the wind, but he doesn't. But honestly, this track is so good, and the artwork is so good, and I just can't wait for this album. It's going to be amazing. I've said amazing and fantastic and spectacular so many times, but yeah, these are all the awesome new songs I've been listening to this month. And also, out of the blue, 5 Seconds of Summer released Calm. I say out of the blue, I don't follow them on any social media. Although I knew this album was coming, I didn't realise it was already out, so I should probably listen to that one because I didn't mind Youngblood, it's alright. Just quickly as a final note, I wanted to show some love to Johnny Blair, the New Zealand artist who I've liked for a few years now, who unfortunately just recently lost his brother. He's going to re-release his 2016 song Family, so I recommend giving that one a listen when it comes out. Now with that, I bring the March album haul video to a close. There are 2 albums I am really excited for. Number 1, this Friday, All Time Low are releasing their new album. Now, as I said, they're 2 songs they released this month. The best of the bunch, I think, so far. I really enjoy them. It's looking like not necessarily a return to form, but there's a lot more traditional, old school, All Time Low influence on this album, more than Last Young Renegade. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to that one, even though we're not going to be able to get any CDs this month, I don't think. So this Friday is All Time Low. Next Friday, the big one, the new Abnormal, The Strokes, they are back. Bad Decisions is the best. At the Door is the best. I cannot wait for the new Abnormal. The Strokes are back. I still can't wrap my head around it. It's gonna be so good. And of course I've got the singer of Holloway Holidays cover of Panic at the Disco's Ballad of Mona Lisa coming out, so that's something to look forward to. Wow, that was a long sentence. I just wanted to show some love to people who have been messaging me, giving me response on the video. I don't get too many comments under these album haul videos, but I do get people messaging me being like, hey, I love what you said about that one, or I really enjoy this song, and maybe you should give this song a listen. So if you're watching this, and if you have the time and are able to, please
please feel free to let me know what music are you listening to during this quarantine coronavirus lockdown time. You know, tell me what your favorite songs are to listen to, some albums you recommend, and if you're watching this in the future, just share a story like, hey, what helped you get through all this time, and what music were you listening to during the lockdown? I'm really hoping things are all cleared up by April, but it's looking like it's going to be more of the same, no new albums, but a heck of a lot of new music. Please, if you're an artist watching this, just, you have a gift to create something that so many people love and enjoy. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. When I eventually get around to seeing My Chemical Romance, I'll put the road to My Chemical Romance there. I'm going to put a video of my dog up there because why not? And eventually, when the April album haul video comes out, I'll put it, I don't know, in this corner here. Thank you all very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.